Oh, I'm Randy Finley. This is my 2-cent challenge, not about a guitar or anything, but this is an international breed love. It was actually made in Korea, and I wrote a song called Carpe Diem, and I'm going to play it here in a minute. But I wanted to explain my history with Korea and why I'm so passionate about doing what I'm doing, trying to change things through music. My dad served in Korea during the conflict, and it wasn't until, gosh, it was about 20 years ago that he'd got with some Vietnam vets and found out he'd had post-traumatic stress and he wasn't alone. And here, after all these years, my family and I found out my dad had had nightmares for literally 40 years since the Korean conflict. And when my grandmother had passed away, he went on to explain some of what it was that got to him, and it was so much from the families being removed from life coming down the rivers. You know, the horribleness of war, that we on our side of the fence are actually just terrorized for 40 years for what happened to our enemies even. And after the Korean conflict, our men on my dad's vessel, the Tortuga, was over at Anatovik for the Mike detonation. And after 60 years, our family is having effects far after of a detonation of a radical release. It was the first liquid hydrogen nuclear weapon, and I don't think there's been any other like it. But all these things has been plaguing my family for 60 years. Now, we have problems here. Russia has Chernobyl. We have Hanford right up the river. We got all these airborne, not necessarily particles that have radiation, but they're just dense energy, and the effects of dense energy is profound. So much of the natural gassing of energy through our planet, similar to like Moses' time or Christ's time, where there was energy they called that took the firstborn, the dense, which now it looks like it relates to our alignment now, which probably brought up dense energy out of the ground, and it affects people. It's been around all sorts of detonations and different things in the past. We have so many new precipices to cross to keep on exploring something that literally we don't understand. The newest math now is showing a half-life is in right triangulation, but it's not just in half, it expands in twice the mass and with half the energy. So it's equalizing in the plenum society. So we've got enough of this dense energy now. Why don't we just settle down and take care of our mess? One of the great things we're finding a problem with is before World War II in the United States here, our power grids were at 50 megahertz. That's 50 cycles per second. After the war, for whatever reason, most likely because of the exploration into nuclear energy, caused the effect because it unfolds in right triangulation, and that isn't in common with 50 megahertz. So now after the war, we went to 60 megahertz, which is 60 cycles or 60 hertz, and most of the rest of the world's at 50. And this is not really good because it's really in Nikola Tesla called electromagnetic low density flux resonance box, and they had it tagged as the doomsday machine. And, well, we built the damn thing, you know? I mean, actually, and I don't mean that literally or on purpose, but the way this is designed with these two different fields, which is literally base 10 versus the base 12 mechanics, and it's been going on forever, and it's just by nature that we just reoccurred that. But back to the Korea thing, my dad had 40 years of nightmares, and that was hard on all of us, and our whole family still suffers from it. My brother had what they call schizophrenia, and now we're finding some of those effects are contaminations with dense energy, and there's all new specific ways of dealing with that, which I've got some videos that we've been working on that. Anyway, to all the people that's been playing with this dense energy, and I try not to say nuclear, and we need to look way past radiation, because that was 60 years ago. Now things have changed. We're talking about radical release of dense energy into relaxed space, and we're dealing with the effects of that, and it's profound. A lot of them are good. In fact, the effects that were coming from the anisotropic detonation, the Mike detonation, is actually showing Genesis type effects, which is a growing of energy or expanding the marriage of the sun of the earth. You know, it's just the understanding, and also that all these energies are attracted to the sun. Like us here in the Portland area, we may need to make one of our dams be prepared to be a splash dam, because dense energy wants to lay on the ground. Whether it's natural, and like I'm saying, this is an international thing because of the earthquakes and everything, and just the alignments and all the thing going on with the earth. Most of this is all a natural occurrence, and even today it tends to affect the firstborn of the first male, and that's the energy thing of density. The male, the male part in recreation is an unfolding of energy. It's like the dense energy unfolding, so it tends to mimic what we used to call nuclear, or expanding energies into relaxed space. Anyway, the precipice we're on now in this whole new era, we have so many things to clean up, and there is so much money to be made. Base 60 and fold, along with life math, which is relaxing, and the condensing of energy working together, is like something the Borg was looking for. It actually has the actual harmonics and energy is there to where we can get everything back in sync. Nobody's worked in common with each other throughout the world. We just haven't. And we're working on an extended school system and healthcare system with the funds from from Time Tools, and that way, this way we can present this throughout the world together, and we can start the Earth Doctor and be real. We've got so many new wonderful things we can do, and it's just time to move forward. The base 60, using base 60 and fold seconds, minutes, hours, seconds to the second, seconds to the third, and unfolding like that, actually makes it so that decimal points, degrees of motion, and fractions are all the same thing. And it's just the most fantastic thing. In fact, the year is the year 3038. That's 30 times 60, which is 1,800, and the 38 would bring us up to 2018. Again, when you're 5th grade math, when you're doing fractions, you're adding, subtracting, and multiplying in succession. You have to use the highest common denominator. It's all of this mess up is 5th grade mistakes. But Carpe Diem is an international patriot song that I wrote, and this is in honor of my friend Ted and so many people and so many of us that have continued to work even after we just worked for a better world. And as a Philippine friend of mine said here, that one thing with kids we should really keep in mind, that kids didn't get asked to be put on this earth, and they are our obligation. You know, it's just they are, and I am working on that very heavily internationally. Thank you. This is Carpe Diem. fight to make a difference. Haven't we had enough of Freudian mushroom envy? Thank you. We can do better, folks.